Hello, 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 on all the ships at sea. This is our Christmas message to the world. Maybe our last Christmas message to the last world. At any rate, all the productions of Christmas Carol that people have been doing on Zoom Room and live YouTube and all the different ways facing our new situation reminded me of my production of Christmas Carol way back in 1970. Here's how I'm going to sing you a song from it later, but I'm going to tell you how it all happened. This is my Christmas past story. I was walking down East 4th Street in New York City in Greenwich Village, and the magnificent Miss Ellen Stewart, the doyenne of La Mama ETC Experimental Theater Club, was standing in the doorway of La Mama looking worried. She said, "Mr. Patrick, I have no show for Wednesday. That Balinese dancing troupe that was supposed to come can't come, and I've already spent all the money I had for their set on building what they wanted for their set, which is 3 huge tombs. I have no money for you. Can you get me a Christmas show up by Wednesday?" So I said, "Sure, Ellen." I ran to the corner, and there were some actors I knew hanging about in our bar Phoebe's. I said, "You guys free for a show Wednesday at La Mama?" They said, "Sure." So I ran to a bookstore. I bought several copies of Dickens' Christmas Carol, and I tore them apart, and I went into Phoebe's and passed out different pages to different people for different characters. While they were memorizing those, I went back to La Mama, and I fixed the seats up and to point at the right blocks, and I decided I would make this one big tomb, Scrooge's office, and another one, the cemetery for the future, for the Christmas future scene, and all of that. And everybody got in, and in the meantime, I was writing 5 songs. So we got in, and Bill Haslip was going to be Scrooge, and Ken Hill was Bob Cratchit. So I taught him the Christmas song in which he invites Scrooge to his home for Christmas. And I had a song in Christmas Past for Scrooge's fiancée when she refuses to marry him because all he cares about is money. And then I had another song that was sung by charity workers on the street called "Give a Little," which I will sing for you later. And at any rate, we had a wonderful time. It was an roisterous show, and they got better every performance once they learned the lines and could throw their pages of Christmas Carol away. Never had more fun. And at the end, when it was all over, Ellen Stewart came to me. She was carrying the box that she always had at the door to take people's contributions. She said, "Mr. Patrick." And she opened the box and turned it upside down. Nothing came out. She said, "Mr. Patrick, your friends love to watch your plays, but they don't want to pay for them." And that was pretty much the story of my career. I hope your story is as funny and you remember it as fondly, and that you have a great Christmas. Happy holidays.
Hi, Jason.
Hello, Mattie. Good to see you again. And everyone who's joining us for this BOBcast holiday special. Robert loved holiday specials. I know that even though he's an atheist, he really appreciated the time of year for having these special TV productions where you'd have all these stars and from classic Hollywood come on. So he was a big fan of it, and I think he'd be very proud to have his own holiday special.
And this isn't, as we just heard from Robert Patrick, this isn't the first holiday special that he's been the driver behind. So this BOBcast, I think, kind of came out of, we did the BOBcast in September. We had 10 hours of participation, expression, creativity, and it wasn't enough. We had so much more to unfold and so many more stories to tell. And that's sort of why holiday is like a good, okay, what if we zoom into this sort of holiday feeling? Like, what do we get out of Robert Patrick and the community that he was a part of? the community that he helped grow. So I think it's like a fun sort of study of where Robert Patrick has been and where his work will continue to go. I feel like
it's a great end of the year gift from that Robert keeps giving.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching us now, we have pre-recorded everything, and we're going to be checking in with various stories related to Robert. We're also going to have footage of Robert, of him performing at a holiday-themed party, some of his holiday songs, different events. So it's going to be a lot of fun and something quite special that Robert would enjoy.
Would Robert Patrick like this? If yes, okay, let's do it.
He would be up all night doing this.
Yeah.
So he would be, the 10 hours, he would have been like, oh, give me more, give me more.
Yeah.
So we're giving more, and who knows, beyond this holiday special, there may be more specials to come.
All right, this is Mrs. Scrooge's song from my La Mama Christmas Carol, and she's explaining to Scrooge why she won't marry him. Oh, honey, gold is good, but it ain't like a good man. Gold don't get old the way I do. I can't compete with it. You don't want me. You want to be free to find another man that comes complete with it, willing to work for you, my baby, willing to save, willing to bear your children, anything, willing to be your slave, but not if you're in love with something slick and hard and cold. Be good as gold to you, you know I do, but there's something scared inside of you, says nothing's as good as gold. No, 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 nothing's good if nothing's as good as gold.
Okay, so here we are with Jacqueline Colton, who was a performer of the off-Broadway scene in the 60s and 70s and beyond. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you?
Quite well. Happy December. I want you to take us back to the 1960s in New York when it's Christmas time. We just heard from Robert Patrick about his charade of getting a Christmas show up by Wednesday for Ellen Stewart, and you were part of that crew who would get shows up
For anybody. Cafe Chino. Yes.
And so tell us about that. What was that like?
Well, I had been with the La Mama troupe in Europe the past 64, 65, and 1966. Seth Allen and I, who were part of the La Mama troupe, saw Grotowski performance by Eugenio Barba and a Danish troupe doing theater we had never seen before. All kinds of physical and vocal and masks and changing characters. We had never seen anything like it in the United States. And we both said, oh, we've got to learn what that is and bring it back to off-Broadway. So I called Eugenio Barba and said, I need to study with you. So I spent a couple of months there in day-long workshops doing chanting, singing, moving. And I came back physically fit. And it was in December. And I ran into Michael Smith on the street. He said, oh, you're back. And I said, yes, I came back from doing a workshop in Europe, the Grotowski workshop. And he said, I'm trying to cast a role in a show. I'm doing the Christmas Carol, and I need the Ghost of Christmas Past. I have auditioned all these people, and it's very complex poetry, and nobody can get a fix on it or an interpretation. Can you read it for me? And I said, yeah. And so it fit right in with what I had been doing, just talking endlessly and being a ghost of Christmas past. And we opened, and it was a fabulous show. Undine, Andy Warhol's superstar, was in it. And Donald Brooks had to leave for some reason. And Robert Patrick came and replaced him in the show. So we were having a wonderful time just all during the holiday. It was so exciting. And Charles Stanley designed my costume, which was my own sundress, and he put ribbons on it that were trailing all over. Here's a picture. And I had a hat that was like a pie plate, and they had candles around the edges of it. And when I would go, before I would go on stage, they would light the candles, and I would dance around Scrooge doing my long speech. And Johnny Dodd would hit me with the 4 lights that were there, so it looked like the candles were doing the light. And it was kind of glorious. And at the end, Undine and I had words, and then he got up and blew out my candles, and that was the end of my appearance.
So good. That's the open flame days of the off Broadway scene.
Yeah.
Now you need like a permit for that.
And I just read in the intro that the show was commissioned just for that event. And it was a huge hit. We were sort of the talk of off Broadway.
Where was
Robert was wonderful. The other thing I remember about Christmas in the Village was Marshall Mason and Lanford Wilson, Clarice Nelson, Michael Warren Powell, and probably Robert Patrick, all sitting around in an apartment, and we were making ornaments. And we had pipe cleaners and glitter and Sobo glue and all this stuff. And we were just making ornaments and laughing and talking and having a great old inexpensive Christmas in New York for the struggling artists.
Very sweet. Where was that production? That
was at the Cafe Chino.
The Chino. Nice.
And what did Robert play in that role again? He replaced
Jacob Marley. He was Jacob Marley. That's a huge part.
Interesting, Jacob Marley, yeah.
Donald Brooks, followed by Robert Patrick. And Billy Name took these photos, a guy named Billy Name, who's a very famous New York artist. We did some wonderful comic book Up by Wednesday things, like we did I was Helen of Troy once, and I sang The Last Time I Saw Paris. Badly. That we would run into one another on the street. It was really a community. The absence of automobiles was a blessing, and that we would all sort of congregate in the village and the East Village, and we would bump into each other. It doesn't happen a lot in California. You know, it makes a huge difference in the sense of community.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's how the Christmas show happened, is that Robert Patrick was walking down the street and Ellen stopped him. And all these moments of happenstance are kind of what start to bind the community together, but it has a little bit of the serendipity and the magic of it.
When I came back from Europe, Mary Claire Sharba and I went to Ellen Stewart's apartment, telling her all about our trip after she had left. And at that time, somebody called and said, "Oh my God, our actress had to leave for an emergency." And so Ellen sent me over, and I went on the next night with a script. I think I told you this story before, but this was always happening, right? That we would just fill in and plunge on.
Yeah. Did it feel risky to you to do those, to say, yes, I'll go on tomorrow night?
Not really. I mean, I had sort of overcome butterflies in my college productions and sort of thought, if I know what I'm doing and I know what my first line is, I can kind of get through it.
I love that.
And you sort of get into the characters, and so you're not representing yourself, you're somebody else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Robert has always been writing songs, right? He always wrote them for his plays, or sometimes he did
He wrote them at the Old Reliable because some of his plays were like solo shows and yeah, I always remember him singing songs or having a new song to sing. He's just he was an amazing poet. And one time in LA, he sent an email or so, and he said, I had a song that was made up of all these titles and lines from old songs, and I can't find a copy. Did I ever send it to you? And I said, yes, I put it in my drawer with my social security number, the things that I wanted to keep. And I found it for him and was able to give it to him. And he was so happy.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a great thing to remind people of, is that seems to be has happened with Robert a lot, where he's lost things. Jason Trucco is working with Carol Nelson on the script for Spinning Tree, and I was looking at Robert's computer archives, which I have, and there was no script of the Spinning Tree, aka the Xmas Wedding, but Carol had a copy. So that's what's, if people are out there that have any, they find from Robert, it's great to bring it forward and share. So.
I remember lots of times at having pie and coffee with Robert, going out to dinner, like in his little neck of the woods, and just spending time and seeing shows together. So I'll miss him this holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I'm glad you're all out there carrying on, you young people.
We do it together.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jacque.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you, Jacque.
Nice to talk to you, Mattie. Get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
more to come.
Hello, John 9. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Jason.
We have a little treat for people who are tuning in of Robert performing at your holiday party in 2015. There's some interesting circumstances of your past experience with Robert, your reconnection with Robert in 2014-15.
The magnificent Jason produced a whole extravaganza. We had all kinds of characters coming in, and some are sort of installed in the space and we're just carrying on. And it was quite a night.
So I was working for you since 2014. I was producing Robert's show, and I think I might have mentioned something to you about it.
Well, I came to his show, the one up in Silver Lake with Peter, and it was amazing.
But somehow I mentioned, I'm producing this show with this guy, Robert Patrick, and you said...
And I said, I know Robert Patrick. Well, picture, if you will, a young John 9, recently moved to New York City from Western Massachusetts, an aspiring young actor at the time. I thought that was going to be my career. And I saw an audition from this play called Kennedy's Children. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about Robert. I just went to the audition and I got the part, which, was very exciting for me. I was, at that time, just kind of... I think what I was doing at that time for a living is I was ushering for Blue Lips at the Orpheum. And Blue Lips, it was a very well-known drag troupe from the UK, headed by Betty Blue Lips. And they did a show every night, and I would get paid $15 to usher. I'd go buy a hamburger and a beer, and then I'd go down to the bar, which was the neighborhood bar, and spend whatever I had left and see what happens. So those were carefree times. But anyway, Robert had decided to restage his famous hit play from Broadway, Kennedy's Children, and the play's set in a bar. He found a bar in Soho. And we staged the show in the bar. And there was only room for maybe 20 people in the audience. And it was, for me, it was amazing to be in the show already. I had just moved to New York. And of course, we had the benefit of Robert's direction and being the playwright. And so, yeah, it was amazing. That's how I knew Robert. And here, fast forward, let's see, that was maybe 1980. There was also a pretty healthy off-Broadway theater scene with La Mama and Theater for the New City and Ethel Eichelberger, who had a loft up in the West 20s. And so I was directing plays in some of these theaters. I was the first person to direct a show at the Ohio Theater Space. We kind of talked our way into that. And then, as Theater for the New City, I did a play with Bill Rice, and it was called Sheen's Outside. It was called Bishop Sheen. And so I'd run into Robert in that scene. We're all just kind of in the East Village at that time. And particularly at the bar, which was, the kind of place where you could just hang out, smoke a joint in the bar, nobody cared. And everyone knew everybody. It was a very, community kind of scene.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you think that being involved with the production and getting to know Robert, that influenced you? Because you went on then to continue to be involved and in theater and direct theater. I mean, you directed me in the Invisible Theater twice. You were director for 3 years of that group.
Well, what I learned from working with Robert and then from a couple other attempts at acting is that I was not a very good actor. And it wasn't so much that I wasn't that good. I just felt drawn towards directing. It just seemed like that's more my talent, my ability. And I just couldn't handle the anxiety of knowing I had to get on stage every night and do a play. I much preferred being in the back of the house, and and it turned out I wasn't that good of a director either at first. I'd like to think that as I continued, I mean, it's 22, what do you know? But as I grew older, and then by the time we did the Invisible Theater, that was what, 90s, 2003. Well, in between those years, I was developing a commercial career, as you are well aware, and working with multimedia, which had nothing to do with theater, but had everything to do with making money. So
Yeah.
Working on the Invisible Theater was just an incredible opportunity to get back into that space and to realize that I had really progressed in that work. But I didn't really have much contact with Robert other than occasionally running into him until I came out here, and lo and behold, I remember that show I went to in Silver Lake. You wrote that show, right?
No, actually, Robert wrote the show, but I produced the show. Oh. He asked me to produce and direct it, although really with Robert, it's like you just give him notes because he's the seasoned professional. You just are an outside eye to, give a few notes. But
we had so much fun doing the Kennedy's Children. And I still, even when we were doing the show, I had no idea who Robert was. I had no idea that the show had been on Broadway. I just thought he was this, downtown playwright, and he wrote a play and wanted to put it on. And I was like the new kid in town. And, at that time I was 20 years old, maybe 21 or 22. And I looked like 16.
I'm going to watch this,
okay.
The Robert Patrick footage primarily. We'll give a little bit of context by showing some of the other performances, but Robert really stole the show. And I have to think, I think that he was at the height of his prowess in singing because, in 2014 to 16, 17, because, he had been training with this woman, Lori Donato, and was feeling very confident about his singing abilities. And so to be able to get paid to do a holiday party like this, he really sunk his teeth into it and enjoyed it. And was.
Oh, I do remember his performance. He really did a great job. Really tore the roof off the place.
He did indeed. And I'm sure he's, entertaining people wherever he's
he knows.
To welcome you to Penrose Studios, where we make such pretty videos. Right here in the heart of El Segundo. The traffic, oy vey, we know.
May I? May I flower? Oh, please let me flower. I beg you, please, I want a flower. August, did you know that I'm wearing faraway? Oh, December, you're much, much, much too much. Let's begin. 10, 9. Oh, it's good practice, come on. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Father Time.
What's going on? What's going on is what goes on every 12 months. I have to give birth to another of these 12-hearted monsters.
Whoa.
I've been through this 2015 times alone, just AD. And this is the worst one ever. I tell you, I don't know if I can ever go through it again.
Well,
Sometimes I think that's why we have that other holiday here.
yes, we have Christmas.
Only a day or two from now. It's the darkest of the year. Maybe that's why someone gave us Christmas here. And the Christmas tree lights mean to me. The light is always near. The light is always near. So be of good cheer. Here Christmas comes. So the worst is over and the night will pass away. Come to me and together we will see that the sun is coming up a little brighter every day. Hear the towers peal their bells while the Christmas carol tells that if Christmas comes, another Christmas comes. Always Christmas comes to light the way, to light the way, hey, to light the way.
Specifically for Christmas?
Every year you ask that.
Oh, well, what is it you want?
You know what I want for Christmas. You don't have to write a book. I'm tired of all your stalling. All you had to do was look. Don't start a fancy snow job, 'cause up to here in snow. Either tell me go away, go. Oh, you know what I want for Christmas. I told you once before. And for Valentine and New Year's, I just want a little more. I've been around, I've had it hard, I've also had it soft. But baby doll, I've had it turn me on or turn me off. Oh, you know what I want for Christmas, or can't you really see? He doesn't do a thing for you, does so much for me. It isn't so expensive, or with difficulty found. Cause I've seen an awful lot of it around now. I've seen an awful lot of it around, yo. I seen an awful lot of it all around. All right. Let's get this over with. 2016, it's time to occur.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Happy New Year, everyone! And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays!
Make a small introduction. Knafim Wings. It's an artist with mental illness recovering. I mean, in the process of recovering. They are professional. Some of them, went through this illness and now they want to get back to the profession. So I'm basically manage this theater group and direct it, and it's a mixed group with we have Palestinian and Israeli Jews, and we work together. I mean, I've been with them for 2 years, and I decided to work with them on Kennedy's Children because I think it's a challenge because it's a monologues play, and also I'm attached to these plays, and there's some similarities with the Rabin's, our the Prime Minister Rabin here, assassinations, and Kennedy's assassination that changed the whole country. It's like how you recover from that. So I was working. So we have this, and I saw it when I was very young. I saw the play in Israel, and it considered to be a good production. I remember it as a good production. And when I was studying acting in London, I was taking part of this play. I was Wanda, and it's funny because Robert said that he considered Wanda as his character. It's that were born at the 80s and they don't remember not Vietnam War, not Nixon, not Kennedy. For them, it was completely new. I mean, Kennedy is the name of an airport, but not as a president or so. It was, and then we were processing, and then I was talking to Michal, and I said to her, "Listen, I'm planning to work on Kennedy's Children." And then she gave me to read the monodrama, One Person, that he was writing. And there is, and I decided, and there is a guy, a Palestinian guy, and he's also a gay, which is important for this, for such, because because I speak Arabic also, so I translated it to Arabic. So I was working on these two plays, and in the meantime, we were meeting Robert Patrick. I mean, I was working only on Kennedy's Children while talking to Robert Patrick, but afterwards, after his death, we started working on One Person. Wow. As a tribute or something to his. And I was really amazed because I wrote him and immediately he answered immediately the same day, and he said that he would be happy to meet us. And it was great. It was really, really exciting and touching meeting because it showed all the figures he got inspired by doing them, like the character of Carla and the character, and he said that the only imaginary character is the Vietnam soldier, and the students had and actors had many questions, and he was talking how he was. He said that it was funny because he said we were talking about the translation and the political correctness, and he said that his agent didn't believe in this play at the beginning of it. And he said that he gave it to everyone who was any interest to produce this play. And I can imagine why, because it's monologues and there is no connection, there is no dialogues, so it's different from from the normal and the theater that because we were so it was of course we shortened it up a little bit, the monologues, but and then the war started. The premiere was meant to be at the 13th of October, Kennedy's children, and the 15th of October, one person. 1 week, 2 premieres, and the war started at the 10th of October. So we had to postpone it, and I don't know where, but it was a great show because we found a really good pub, a bar in Tel Aviv that it's really the right place for Kennedy's children. It's got the vision of it's in the basement, and I hope that I will be able to show you when the play will be on. It's in the basement, and there are all this kind of posters from the 70s, and it's really got this. When I got that, they never produced a play there before. They didn't know what we were talking about, and it was the first time there would be a play there, and it will be Kennedy's Children, and it was. And I really, and even the manager of all the Knafa, all this of the theater said to me, well, maybe we'll try to bring Robert Patrick to Israel. And after we were talking with him, and he said, we'll invite him as a guest that you will see, and we'll talk with him. And I said to him, I think will be very difficult because it's a long flight, but we will be able. We really wanted to bring it because this conversation with him really changed all the attitudes of the actors, how they were doing to their characters, and it was for them the first time to meet a playwright from overseas. So it was really, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when did you decide that you were going to do Kennedy's Children? Was it was it the beginning of the year? And then how long did it take that you were rehearsing with your cast before you reached out to Robert? But I mean, I'm not surprised that he responded so quickly because that was so Robert. Like he was, online all the time.
Oh, really? I was thinking of Kennedy's Children at the beginning of the year, and we were talking with him, I think in March, maybe. So it was 2 months because it is a process. We had to read the play first, and then to see how we make it suitable for those people to perform, because there are long monologues, and there are some things that are very Americans in this. They are very New York, very Americans. So we had to make some choices, and then we spoke with him, And something that were lost in translations. What was it was talking? He said there is something that the guy, the actors said that if he was straight, he would go to to buy some sex, and it was in the translation. I think the Ehud Mano, who translated the to Hebrew, it was missing the point, the joke, the meaning of this. So actually, I made this actor dressed like as a woman all the time, and at the end of the play, he's taking out all of his mask, and he's a good part. He's doing it very well.
So how did the cast, I mean, first of all, how are they doing with the situation right now, the war, and how did they respond, all this work that they're not being able to do the show anymore, or it's postponed? Do you have plans? Do you know if it will still take place at the bar that you intended?
It will definitely take place in the bar that we planned. And we postponed it. The war, it's still going. While I'm talking with you, the war, it's still on. It was heartbreak for everyone. We are all, we just got the vibe. We got all the invitations and the premieres and the video, and we didn't miss a thing. And and we had to postpone this. So what's happening now? So now they are starting to have the plays and performance, and so we're starting going back. We are waiting for, I think, at the end of the month to reschedule the dates of the two plays.
Yeah.
So that is.
And everyone's doing okay? Are they, mentally healthy? Because it's so traumatic what is going on.
It is traumatic, yes. That's the reason that we had to be together. The actor who played one person, the Palestinian guy, I haven't seen him. I went to visit him, but he's really in shock. He's better now. He's good. Isa is a good actor, and I'm sure he will. But it was heartbreaking for me. You have a one-man show. The whole play is on your shoulder, and we went to check. I don't know if you see, we have a glittering jacket and from the performance, and we combine songs in Arabic and in English we really did something. I really did something touching, and it got really attached to the play. And it's the first time. It's really we have what we call an Arab Hebrew theater in Jaffa, and we went to do it to produce the play in Arabic. It's the first time that Palestinian Arab actors is talking about love to a man in the audience. So it is revolutionary in a way. So, and we were doing it really as a love story, and it's really touching. So yes, it is really moving.
I think Robert would definitely be honored that you're breaking some ground in dealing with homosexual issues in because that was basically what Robert was doing his entire life, is pioneering, pushing the boundaries. How did the cast respond hearing the news about his passing?
About
Robert's death?
They were very upset. They're really, we dedicate dedicate about two hours just to talk about Robert and the conversation and how upsetting it is, and it caught us in the rehearsals, and one of the actors, Isa, did some research. He was talking to a lot of people who were connected with Robert, so he gave some information about what he found out, and we were really talking about the conversation we had, and they were really upset. It caught us, for them.
He was so full of life, and obviously in meeting with them in March, in your Zoom conversation, he's very lively and excited, it seemed.
Yeah, it was really excited, and we were starting the conversation at in hours 12. It is in yours like 1 o'clock in the night or something like that. And I said to him, well, it will take an hour because it's very, and he said, you have more questions. And it went on and on. It was like 2 hours. We prepared for 1 hour, and it went on as like 2 hours. Wow. Because he was so interested with all the actors, and he was so interested about how and it's written many other plays, but he was also so attached to this play because he said he was talking how he struggled with the play, and how he has to convince his agent just to produce it. And he was a good man. He was really sensitive, good man, and a good listener, and it's funny, you write an email and suddenly I see a mail with big letters. It was he wrote with big letters, so if you because he said when we talk about the hours, about the time, about this, so immediately you see that it's a mail from Robert Patrick because it's big letters and
Robert Patrick, big letters.
Yes, Robert Patrick, and big letters and capital letters.
Yes.
So that was, yeah. So that was, and for me, it was also sort of, it was like a closure. I'm so glad. I mean, I'm so glad that I managed to know him and to speak with him, because I was 16 or 17 when I saw the play here in Haifa in Israel the first time. And then I was a acting student in London, in drama school, and I was doing Wanda. And now I'm directing this play and talking with Robert Patrick. Was a closure, like meeting, and I'm playwright, director, and an author. I was studying in London, but I mostly work on a political plays. I'm married to Palestinians, so I'm writing most of my plays are connecting with the relation between Palestinians and Israelis. I talk the two languages, Arabic, Hebrew, and also English, and I'm working and showing the human life of the Palestinians, not just from the political occupation and non-occupation. Of course, I'm against the occupation, but I saw the everyday life, the cultural life, the human side of the life, because I spent the last 30 years living between the two societies, Israeli and Palestinians. We have two extraordinary kids. I believe that we can live all my plays and my work connected to social activities, human activities, human rights.
Tell me about your production. Do you have photographs of it?
No, we just started rehearsing, so we're just in the process of rehearsing, and we just do some table work, and we talk about the errand. As you see, most of the actors here are very young.
וכמובן, הוא כך נאה וצעיר, צעיר בשבילי נשיא, והיא, טוב, תמיד חיבקתי אותה. כולם חייכו כמו דבילים, ורק אני אמרתי, הוא מת, אלוהים אדירים, הנשיא מת. שינוח בשלום על משכבו. כמעט 10 שנים לא התקרבתי לבר. במשך כל שנות ה-60. אז הייתי פעילה. עכשיו אני באמת לא יודעת מה אני עושה.
I understand that you don't want to show approval of drugs, but if you don't let Rona enjoy them, then we won't understand why people take them. But you got to let us see the ecstasy. You've seen all those photographs of the people at the rock festivals. Yes. Well, they were having a good time.
שנינו עובדים כשהוא לא מזריק, ומנסים לחסוך כסף לטיול משותף. חלום. I have a dream.
Carla, as herself, she's the only one of them, you know, who wanted to be a hero. The rest wanted to follow heroes. Carla wanted to be a hero.
אם למדתי משהו, ונדמה לי שלמדתי, אמרתי שאנשים לא רוצים לשמוע אותי מדברת מעומק. אנשים לא רוצים לשמוע אותי מדברת בכלל. הם רוצים להסתכל עליי. אני שונאת את שנות ה-60 המטונפות. אני שונאת את כל מה שקרה לי בשנות ה-60, ואני שונאת את כל מה שקרה לאנשים אחרים בשנות ה-60. אני שונאת את כל מה שקרה בהם ואת כל מה שלא קרה בהם. ברור? אפשר לסכם את עניין שנות ה-60?
תראו אותנו בפנסים שלהם, הרביצו לנו ועצרו אותנו. ידעתי שאסור לי להתערב. שאסור לי להילחם בשביל אחרים, הוא לא נלחם בשבילי. בעצם למה לא? אולי הוא פחדן. אולי אני פחדן. אולי הוא הפך אותי לפחדן. אבל שנינו הרי הרגנו היום.
In some part of my mind, when I was writing Mark, I was thinking, what brought Lee Harvey Oswald to kill JFK, you know?
אני מציג בפניכם את המוצג היחיד שלי. כלומר המלחמה הסודית שלי מווייטנאם. טוען שזה מחוץ לשליטה שלנו, אבל אני מרמה את צ'יק. אני הורג אנשים כדי שהעולם יהיה אחד.
Remember, it's music.
Who?
You must sing the lines. Take a deep breath and let it go. Don't whisper, don't pause. Drive through. Let the music of the words carry you.
Oh, moon of Alabama, we now must say goodbye. We love our poor mama, and I must stay whiskey, oh, you know why. Oh, moon of Alabama, we now. Oh, no, that's how you mean. קושר הייתי משהו. כל הזמן גם שמעתי רעש כזה, מוזר באוזניים, כמו איזה חתול מיילב, ופתאום קלטתי שאני משמיע את הקול הזה, אז הפסקתי מיד ליילל, המשכתי לסחול לעבר דיסנילנד, מה שזה לא היה.
אני מפנצ'ז הרבה זמן לעשות סקס בשלישייה.
When you're writing the play, well, it's just like when you're acting one. You don't know where it comes from. You may study your acting and you may do your notebooks and you may do your sense memory and you may, but you don't know where it finally comes from.
اهلا وسهلا بجمهورنا. نورتوا قلبي ونورتوا المسرح وما فيش زي جمهوري. ما فيش زي جمهوري. احلى جمهور بالكون، انا كتير بحبكم. او كاس. عادي يعني. طيب معك حق. انت
A review by Quentin Crisp. It's the explanation of Christmas Wedding by Robert Patrick at the Theater for a New City. The Theater for the New City has gone from 2nd to 1st Avenue, a move not only eastward but also downward in all senses of the word. But don't be afraid. At present, the journey thither is easily worth the hazards. The recent production of Robert Patrick's explanation of a Christmas Wedding was an enchanting offering. A member of the audience told us that it had originally been entitled The Spinning Tree, a much more appropriately magic title. Santa Claus is a monstrous publicity hog and needs no further encouragement. The play is about a stuffy architect called Madison and from Madison, Virginia, who is introduced by a Polish sculptor to an anarchic poetess in Greenwich Village. In spite of their different, nay, opposing moral and political standards, and the fact that he's engaged to be married to an innocent creature back home, they become involved in a tempestuous affair. The general tone of this piece is poetic, but the subject matter is political, as though William Butler Yeats had translated a drama by Henrik Ibsen. This is not meant to imply that the words are ever obscure or that the subject matter, though the action takes place in 1910, is ever irrelevant to modern life. The dialogue is by turns moving and humorous, even at times hilarious. The production was very well managed by director Natalie Sandler, with virtually no scene changes, a spotlight here, the position of a chair altered there. The tiny stage was so ingeniously used that no confusion as to the locality of the action ever arose. The cast was also small, 4 people: Laura Lane as the unsophisticated fiancé, Tom Grasso as the Polish sculptor, and John McLuhan as the architect, all acted well. Inevitably, however, the play was dominated, nay, irradiated, by Carol Nelson as the poetess, a long part in short run. Whether cursing or cooing, preaching or praying, she never seemed to fumble a single line. Wearing a black wig to convince us that she was the daughter of a wealthy Sicilian family, she looked ravishing and changed her costumes with dazzling speed, chiefly by wearing less and less as her passion for Mr. Nicholvine intensified. Finally, she and her paramour faced each other completely naked. The nudity in Mr. Patrick's t-shirts frightened me, secretly. I thought it gratuitous. In this context, it seemed completely appropriate, since the lovers are being used as models for pieces of public sculpture by their Polish friend. Although his works have been performed in England as well as America and on television as well as on stage, Mr. Patrick is really the resident dramatist of the Lower East Side. His genius is for condensing but not diminishing vast themes to fit the dim cellars to which this district is so universally honeycombed that it is a wonder the buildings above them do not collapse. Mrs. Nelson, whom I also saw in Michelangelo's models, is his ideal leading lady, a Dietrich to his Sternberg, a garbo to his stiller. When Mr. Patrick is not writing plays, he is eating in Phoebe's restaurant on the Bowery. So far, whenever I have seen him there, I have implored him not to write so many plays. After my recent visit to the Theater for the New City, I've changed my mind. I now think he should compose a drama about the relationship between a movie star and his director. Well, that's a lovely review, and
isn't it?
Yeah, how lucky to be here talking about Bob with you, the Dietrich to his Sternberg. That's great. Thank you so much. Hey, Carol.
Hey, Jason.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I think both of us were a little surprised that Jason Jen had a wonderful idea to follow up a 9-hour tribute to Bob with a now holiday special.
Yes.
But I love ambitious projects that bite off more than they can chew.
Oh yeah.
And in this one, it's something that I'm personally very curious about, and so I'm excited to hear about it. I mean, first I should tell you that it's something that I know very little about, but care about a lot, because Bob was, as you know, my favorite playwright and a good friend. And I knew him first as a playwright's name from books,
right?
And so I knew a certain body of his work. But from the moment that I met him as a person, he was talking about you as an actress. On the first day that I met him, he was making a Xerox copy of this play, and he was explaining to me how awful it was that I would not be able to have seen you in the play, and what a tragedy it was that I wasn't able to be there for this. So in a way, this continues some of the stuff that he said when I first met him.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the spinning tree, or
Explanation of a Christmas Wedding, as it's also known as.
Great. And it says 1982. Can you maybe tell me a little bit of, first of all, how you came to know Bob and where this sat in your guys' working relationship?
I met Bob in like 1977 or 78, somewhere in there. I worked with a group of actors and directors and that kind of thing. And one of them knew Bob. And so he contacted Bob. And so we all got introduced to Bob that way. And I mean, you know Bob, you give him a group of actors and directors and stuff like that, and he's in heaven.
Sure.
So we started out then doing plays of Bob's in wherever we could find to do them.
Yes.
Which was great. I mean, we had such a good time doing everything. And then he started, at the time he was writing so much. And so he started writing stuff for us as a company. And that was really good. And then we had some other playwrights in the group too, did their stuff. But anyway, so then this came along, like you said, I guess in 1982. And we did it. And it was the first production that we did of it. It was called The Spinning Tree. And we did it at this really dump of a theater on 2nd Avenue that doesn't exist anymore. I think I told you before that if it was raining outside, it rained on stage because the roof leaked so bad. So we did it then, and then I think it was just a couple years later, TNC wanted to do a play of Bob's. So he pitched them this, but they said, well, we want an original, Well, the one that we did before was, not that many people saw it and everything, so we figured he could get away with it. And at that point, it became Explanation of a Christmas Wedding. Although it will always be The Spinning Tree to those of us who know it.
And do you know where the idea for the play came from? Did he come in with the play fully formed one day? Was there some discussion about what kinds of works he'd be wanting to do?
Not ahead of time. I mean, he knew the people he was writing for. So he wrote it with us in mind. All 4-character play, right? Yeah. All 4 people that appear in it were members of the company. And I think he wrote it primarily for me. Because it's, it's quite a role.
It's quite a role.
Love it. I love doing it.
I mean, can you tell me a little bit about the context of the role and for the people that haven't read it? I just read it again last night, but it takes place in the 1910s here in New York.
New York City, and it's this young architect, and he comes to New York to, I think, apprentice for an older guy. And the older guy, who's very bohemian and all that kind of stuff, he introduces his character to me, who is a real bohemian and a real, very political, very, into, all sorts of human rights, really ahead of her time and stuff like that. And she also happens to be an heiress. So I always figured, well, it's easy to be like that if you've got money to back you up, Right. You can live like a starving artist, but you really aren't on that kind of thing.
Right.
And that's kind of how she was. So. But the thing about her is she's so passionate about everything. And then him and her meet, and of course they start an affair together, even though they're really opposites. I mean, he's all, straight up and down, buttoned up tight and everything. He's got a fiance back home, who the play is interspersed with her reading the letters that he writes to her while he's in New York and everything, But I think they both, as it turns out, they both end up sort of widening each other's horizons about, who they are and what's out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think you summed it up very, very well. I wondered, in the copy that you have, which I believe might actually be the only copy, so we're very thankful that we found it. And I hope that in some of these interviews that Jason's putting together and broadcasting, and that La Mama's been helpful in broadcasting, that we can, if we have copies of plays that we've worked on with Bob over the years, it'd be great to collect them someplace so that they can be archived, because in this case, what a shame it would be.
I know. Well, I know Bob used to have a drawer in the archives where, Ozzy.
Right.
Because Bob would go there and leave scripts there and everything, because La Mama would only, really make a point of having the ones that were produced at La Mama. So any other ones were just ones that Bob brought in and would be added to that. And I would think Lincoln Center maybe has some of his plays too, but I have, all the ones I was in, certainly.
That's great. And you worked with Bob, what years do you think were?
Well, mostly from, like I said, when I first met him in like 1977 or 78, up until the early 90s, when he went to California.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
And so Hello Bob and all of those years, right?
Yeah.
And also, on the front page here, Bob talks about how he was planning to, and I had the memory of him telling me that he had written 2 more plays that followed
I don't know about 2 more. He talked about 1 more, because at the end of this play, both my character and the other, James's wife, are pregnant.
Right.
So their sons, it's their sons grown up, so it's like, 20, 25 years later, and what's become of their sons and what their sons do. And I'm sure somehow they meet. I don't know if they know they're brothers or not, but so, and as to my knowledge, he never wrote it, but and he may have had ideas for a 3rd one too, just to, keep it going, the times and how the times were changing.
I mean, it's an amazing kind of historical imagination, right? Is that what, I don't know how you'd say it. It's a fiction based on the experiences that were plausible to.
Oh, but the characters are fictional, but the experiences are real.
Right.
I mean, doesn't she talk in there? Isn't there a big scene where they get into a talk about the Triangle shirtwaist factory that burned because the workers were locked inside and everything? So these things really happened.
Yeah, and I think Bob said that he wrote those based on conversations that he had with people that were there.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's. I think you see in his preface.
1910.
Well, yeah. I mean, they could still be alive. He could have met them.
I guess he could have met them before then. Yeah.
Do you have any recollections of the rehearsals? Can you tell me a little bit about how Bob functions as a director? I always say with directors that you never know how the other guys do it.
Right. Well, I mean, I loved him as a director, you know. I liked it when he directed the plays that we were in. And the first one of these he directed, but the second one that we were going to do at La Mama, he got another director for it. But it turned out he was not happy with what she was doing. So about 2 weeks before the performances were to begin, he got rid of her and took over himself.
Great. And did he have a way of working that was familiar to him? Did you start always with a table read and?
Oh sure.
Sort of a traditional.
Yeah, he was pretty much traditional in that way, but you know, he was much more. You know, his directing style was much more. I'm trying to think of the right word to use. I mean, it wasn't as technical as a lot of directors. Yeah, we'd do a read through. We'd do basic blocking and stuff like that. But then it would kind of, from there, it would just go to wherever, you know.
Cool.
He was always the thing about him as a director, he was always very specific about what he wanted to see, which was nice, you know. I mean, you know, he was a little bit of a show and tell director, which a lot of actors don't like, but I liked it. I mean, he'd be giving you a direction on something, and he'd get up and do it himself, you know, and everything, and he'd be like that, you know. And some people that would drive nuts, you know, and he'd be like, "You don't mind if I'm showing you how to do it?" And I'd always say, "Oh no, because I can do it much better than you can." So
that's wonderful. I mean, I wondered a little bit just this morning thinking about this play that it represents two sides of Bob that way. Is that he was always telling me, you know, we fooled him. I'm really a vaudevillian. You know, we're disguising ourselves as doing this avant-garde kind of stuff, but don't tell them. I'm really such a traditionalist.
Right.
And the other side was, I think he was really the most experimental of the experimental playwrights.
Yeah.
Right, and so I was thinking this morning that in that way, the way that you have the architect and the artist really represent two sides of how Bob would talk to me. Now, years later, I can't help but think of Ruth York, who Bob told me that he was secretary to on Cornelia Street, and she was an heiress from the Carl Fisher.
Well, maybe this character is based a little bit on her.
You know, she'd written some plays, and she lived just a few doors down, I think, from Cafe Chino.
Right.
And Carl Fisher, you know, that building that has right. So that was her uncle. And she had appeared as a young woman in Nosferatu. She was the naked girl that had been chased down the beach by the monster.
Okay.
And I got the feeling, and this is only in later years, that she was really inspirational to them having a confidence to be able to do artistic work because she believed in it.
Yeah, I remember him talking about her and how encouraging she was to all of them and told them, you know, what Renaissance people they were and all this, you know. So you're creating a new Renaissance.
Right, I mean, which that definitely reminds me of what I could see of the character of Arden.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. She seemed like a patron, but then also this is something that I wonder if I'm inventing or if it's just what I envisioned. But I remember at the end the image of them bringing down the curtain and the sculpture of him and her in stone as art and commerce over the door of the museum.
That's right.
Well, I think this is great. I hope that this is filling in some things that people are curious as I am.
Yeah.
It's a joy to talk to you about this. I look forward to talking about more plays.
Yeah.
And let's hope that we can see these shows. That would be the best.
It would, but somebody's going to have to put them on. This day is one of rejoicing and reaffirming. We are a complex animal, we human beings. We do everything that the other animals do, I need not list all these activities here, but we have two functions which distinguish us from all other beasts. We destroy our own kind and we create ideals. These stem from that uniquely human attribute, the imagination. Only humankind can look at its own kin and feel threat and terror. Only humankind among the higher orders habitually turns cannibal. Only humankind makes war, and only humankind enslaves its species. We are in some respects the worst of animals. But that same imagination that makes us fearful and mistrustful and alone has another face. Only human beings can imagine what is not and can create it. What we dedicate today is a temple to the fantasies of our fervent, sometimes fetid, sometimes ephemeral, sometimes ineffable imaginations. Alone of all animals, we make images. Gathered appear images. Stand or sit solemnly in rows to watch unreal figures acting out unfactual dramas. Walk through halls to gaze and turn at the creations, not of God, but of our siblings, our ancestors, our successors. And this is not the silent, churchly thing we have all been taught that it should be. This creation, this art, is a violent war. For there is vast combat between artists to make us see what they wish us to see. What people cannot imagine, they cannot do. But what no one has ever shown is that there is anything we can imagine that we cannot do. And so, just as there must be mingling of many bloods to ensure those chance combinations of inheritance that might manufacture the next hero the species needs, and just as in that promiscuous commingling, we risk the production of the halt, the horrible, the unviable, and the evil, so as we mix our minds with the matter of art, we take great risks, explore great possibilities, shape the future as surely as when we may. I do not shock those among you who know life, and you know that I do not. I am saying that we must, as we will do here, expose ourselves to every imagining that art is the pure research of the soul, that experience of it is a real experience, and that even on these prairies where life seems so simple, we are seeing, in fact, humanity acting out what it has been presented with as possible by its poets, its storytellers, its legends and fables, and its sculptors and painters. I know this is not an easy battle, nor is it ever absolutely won. There is art in this temple I do not approve of, but there is art I heartily endorse. What has been fought for here is the right to see, the right to not be blind to any possibility. There is no greater sight nor any greater heroism than the struggle to give new vision. Many have thought I would be critical here today, but I do not need to be, for I have been critical before and have been attended. Many have dismissed as un-American the creed I have espoused, but I am here to say that only in America could I have declared myself and been attended to.
Put your hands together for the lovely, our dearest friend, Noel Coward. Woo!
It's indeed a great honor to be invited to Berlin, the world capital of liberal arts, in 1924. Our planet is degenerate from every other minaret. Muezzin's cry times passed us by completely. And Darwin said ontogeny reiterates phylogeny, which dear Papa thought put it rather neatly. Our efforts to revitalize the gods we used to idolize do not impress this idle-wise terrestrial speck a dent. And the most polite librarian confesses all are Aryan. Traditions are barbarian or decadent. But admitting that we don't intend to suicide, how shall we spend time to the end? Well, regardless of what you decide, I wanna be a major star. I wanna play all day among those swing drums. Up in the morning fighting duels for greater goblins, duels, and by the pool at noon, I'll burn the bright maroon, which will drive photographers to frenzies. Afternoon will find me leaving peace behind me, paying my union dues with radio interviews, and then I'll face the choice of which Rolls Royce would match my evening shoes. For in the night, like a polite star of the movies, I shall appear at a premiere despite my qualms. And due to understaffing, do my own autographing like a pragmatic, democratic movie star. The way I'm overpowered would give the greatest coward the idea to see and be a movie star. A movie star.
He's the only one that came. Thank you.
The House of All Gods. This is the House of All Gods. All 12 of you stand here and I revile you. I, Kira, high and only priestess of this house. I revile you because I know you are not here. Only 12 cold statues stand around me, and no gods. There are no offerings burning on your altars, no, not even the ashes of old fires. For no man has ever come to worship here, and why I work to keep your statues clean, your altars bright, the floors before you swept when no one kneels there, I do not know. No man but me, and the old priest before me who passed on his faith to me so he could go. I don't know where, but I do know why. Because he was tired of calling in stilted and ceremonious tones to those who cannot hear or will not listen, to gods into whose congregated temples no one ever comes, and the more fools they. Look at them all about the city, hurrying to your easy individual altars. Look, you stand up on your pedestals. Do you see, better than me, how they go? Gods of the common flocks of polluted people, do you see? Perhaps you will answer if I call you in their vulgar, in their disrespectful tones, in the voice of the people, for you would be surprised to learn how very well I, gopher of all gods, know the voice of the people. Well, Mars, baby, do you hear? You see how they go, your old war god, into your temple surrounded by its camps and columns of marching, trumpet-deafening men, all the hired killers, the old rams and young sheep that follow them out of fear? Everyone's against you, aren't they? Why is that, I wonder. Could it be that they are all drilling and marching and hear the weapons clattering in practice and wonder what it is you're practicing for? Oh, Hercules, can you see with your 2020 vision and your 20 million followers in your damn gymnasium, bellowing and building up their muscles and congratulating themselves with feasts and prizes, worshiping themselves, stocking up on locked larders, always in preparation for the next feast, for the next contest, for the next feast, for their next housing development, which will turn into the same old slobbering orgy of competitive consumption. Mercury, you glittering nitwit, Can you see your smiling string of solitary gamesmen on the way to your toy factories and laboratories, where they turn out their twinkling tributes to your nervousness and insomnia? What are they making next out of aluminum and plastic and telling the world that it can't live without, so that they can get enough gold to turn out more abstract, finely wrought fidgeting to tangle and distract anyone whose purpose they so envy? Juno? Everybody's mother, you sentiment stick whose temple is the home, any home, however large, whose dreads humanity down. Can you see your cripples ignoring the humanity of anyone from another neighborhood, another town, another, goddess forbid, country? Can you see the heart-throbbing bedrooms where your devotees breed one more ignorant helping of the same rubble of rabble? Only a mother could love them. Apollo, you old romantic, you, can you glimpse the gleam on your museum? Wasn't the past probably better when all you hear about is its kings and nobles, and wouldn't you probably have been one of them? And aren't you too much? Athena, isn't it comforting to do your little jobs and keep your order, feel superior and then feel ashamed for feeling superior, and mortify yourself a little and then feel better? There are your colleges and libraries opening on time, you deficiency expert. Let your worshipers in and fill them with facts, correct their spelling, and send them out into the whirlpool. Venus, aren't they all tacky? Just ignore them and work on those watercolors, girl. Finish that love poem, design that dress, play around with your perfumes, and remember to keep a fresh handkerchief tucked under your pillow or carry a box of Kleenex. You can never tell whose pillow you're going to be reaching under next, and life can be beautiful. That's your bohemia, darling. Keep it clean. Those are your alleyways, Pluto, and those are your people surrounding it about and in muttering self-justifications and accusing others, or muttering self-accusations and justifying others. It hardly matters. What's really important is someone's got to get hurt and someone else has got to do something about it, and you're the judge. So much easier to manufacture it all. Scratch a sadist and find a masochist, or just scratch a masochist. That's your courthouse and those are your dungeons. Those are your criminals and those are your cops, and it's so much easier to punish than to prevent, isn't it? You're not only proud of being better than everybody else, you're proud of being worse. You want to priest and sacrifice both. Diana, darling, they must all be such a disappointment to you. But look, there is your temple, the radiant countryside. There you can run and be free and chaste and daydream about your perfect man and put everybody down for not being him, and then come back to the incredible clutter and confusion of your city life because you yourself can't pick out the perfect order. No god or goddess is more cruel to those who fail to worship her, maybe because she can't worship herself. Saturn, Father, authority, those are your children. Further images of the Father image, treading their heavy and considered way to the sanctuary of the Capitol building. Are you proud that they all walk like you and think like you, or don't think like you, but instead treat every situation as it was treated before, even if it happens to be new? Recommending the same cure for all diseases, you are a government of aspirin. And Ganymede, you humble servant of all men, whose temples are the poorhouse and the tavern and the tower of the philosopher, ever yielding to the needs of men, whose charity and forgiveness forever allow it to go on. And frolicking Neptune, do you see clearly? Has it ever worked, darling? Has merely reflecting the world ever done anything but make it smile into your mirror, putting on its prettiest face? How are your heroes and villains these days? Still cheering for themselves? Do you all see what has become of the world from your worship? Will you come here now and join together? Will you answer me? Will you help me drag the cattle here where happiness possible? Will you call them? Do you hate them so That you will continue to let them live this way? Will one of you, for some sake, answer me? No, no, none of you will answer, ever, none. Not one of you. None of you will even tell me why you won't answer. And you don't have to. I know. I can draw no gods here because I believe in none. And I never did. Perhaps that's why I came to the temple of all gods, in hopes that the mere multiplicity of presences would convince me. But I found emptiness. I have failed all gods. All gods punish those who do not believe in them. And I am so punished by every one of you. And there is no help for me or for mankind. No one. No one will ever come.
Happy 7th of Hanukkah, everybody. Robert.
Chris, not Christmas.
Again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Childhood friends who were dear to us may be near to us once more. Someday soon we all may be together if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow and have yourself a merry little Christmas.